we're here at the CCA workbench for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques, and I'm stealing money again. I got Russell Kleppinger in here. He's going to tell us all about deep dropping. I've only done it 2 or 3 times, so we needed to get an expert in here. And Russell he owns a Bucket List Charters, and he's called the Tarpinator. He fishes for tarpon all the time, but tonight he's the deep drop king. He's going to tell us how to do the deepinator. So when we're out there starting off to go deep dropping, what are we trying to fish for? Where are we going? Where are we starting?
It depends on your region of the state and what your goal is, how much current you have. There's some variables you have to know. So if you're in it, going for vermilions and the shallow stuff, then you go with the lighter rigs and start shallow. Or if you're trying
if we're starting off shallow with the lighter stuff, what are we talking about?
So 1 pound to 2 pounds of lead, something like this. These are raised new rigs, and these have no swivels on the 3-ways.
I got you.
So they're just tied.
So less hardware.
60-pound line.
Because you're in the shallower water, you're not chasing fish that are maybe quite as big or
it's a little smaller fish, but you have a stealthier rig. And what's beautiful is that these swivels are hidden inside this piece of glow tubing. So when the rig can swivel, you don't pull the fish off, and there's no hardware here at these connections.
They don't twist off.
And these are the new ones that he just came out with, the 60-pound rigs. And then as you start working a little deeper, his next rig up is a 130-pound rig, and it's another hand-tied rig. So there's no big crimps and 3-ways, a little longer dropper. Little bigger hook. Again, it swivels. Ray says he's 250% higher landing ratios on the swivel hooks versus the non-swivel.
Those guys always exaggerate. No,
he's a scientist.
Yeah,
so he's got the 2 rods.
There's nobody.
Testing.
Yeah, there's nobody who tests his stuff more than Ray.
So
he says it, I believe it.
He doesn't pull the hooks when he can have the hook swivel like that.
Well, when you're pulling up stuff, even in shallow water bottom, you notice that everything gets all twisted, and if they're using that twist against you, they can come out.
On the way up, they pop off easier.
And especially when you're using, I guess, we're usually using electric reels. So we got a lot of torque, and we're moving them pretty quickly, a lot faster than we would be cranking. So those swivels do come in handy. Let's say we got the 1 pound weights for the shallow guys, going out deeper, real deep dropping, 500 to 600 feet. What size weights and stuff are we using there?
It all depends on the current in your area. If you're in the Gulf side,
the less current is best.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's all as light as you can get away with. So if you can live with 2 to 3 pounds and 600 or 700 feet, your life is easy. But if you're over here in the southeast area and we have the Gulf Stream, that's very rare. Usually you're starting with 5, 6, and 8 pounds, and we have to go to much heavier reels, and we're going up to 10-pound lead just to get down because we'll have 4 or 5 knots of current. So if you have lighter current, you fish a lighter rig and thinner braids. And when you're bringing them up, don't bring them at full blast volume, at half throttle, so you're not tearing the fish off as easily. Kind of back off the drags where you're just gaining line all the time, stalling it if there's a big wave, instead of full drag and full power where it's just so much torque that you pull the hooks on them. It's
Now you mentioned something earlier to me before we came on, about making sure that everything is laying on the bottom. What does that entail?
So when we say lay it down, like I'll tell my guy on the rod, I'll say, all right, lay the rig down. So when that rig hits the bottom, if you watch the videos, you'll see the grouper and the lead will be bouncing, and there'll be groupers and snappers staring at the lead, and the hooks are above their head basically up here, and their focus is on this thing that's moving. But when you stop and you free spool it and the rig falls over, and then the rig lays down against the bottom,
and all the baits still, and everything are laying on the bottom.
And sometimes people even put like a 2-ounce weight at the top snap swivel to let it lay down flat. But when it sits still and you put it in free spool and start drifting away, you'll feel the line start jumping, and then you'll engage and give power to it and lift the rig up and catch them. But a lot of the times, if the rig is moving, bouncing, you may snag more if you're dragging and or not getting as many bites as when you stop and leave it in free spool. And that's where there's a big difference when you can hold the rod versus have the rod holder. If you can hold it, like we were talking about earlier on a Fathom 40, and with 20-pound braid and you're drifting, you can feel those bites. But when it's in the rod holder and the boat is doing it, you just don't have that sensitivity.
Well,
but when you lay it down, you can really become sensitive.
Well, that's about it, man. We're we're done. That went pretty quick, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Well, I hope you guys learned something.
You know what I learned from that, Dave?
Let it lay down.
Is
Lay
bottom
down.
fishing's bottom fishing, and you gotta have your bait on the bottom. Otherwise, you're only gonna be catching those stragglers.
There we go.
Thank you for that, Russell. That was good stuff.
Laying it down.